So again, this is my first 7310 port job. Everything timed out, I'm machined, and everything I feel like is a big trade-off. Like I want to take more off the base, but I don't want to have too much intake duration. And then, you've got these removable transfer caps that are super thin, so I really can't alleviate much of anything there that restrict flow. Jesus, here, let me pull this jug and I'll show you a few things on the inside. Don't get me wrong, I like Echo, but what were they thinking? So this is like a 71cc, it's a 74cc saw. Here's the opening for the intake. Now, the actual intake port isn't ginormous, but you've got that much area. And let's put this in perspective. Here's a 3120 jug, okay? just bear with me here. There's damn near as much intake area on those. Obviously that's a little bit bigger, but it's another 35, 40 cc's. I mean, this is a ginormous cylinder. They were nice enough to follow Stihl's lead and put your pin locator right there, so we're not going to be able to open up the exhaust port too terribly much on this side. We'll have to work on this side. That's a head scratcher for me. I got a feeling I'm just going to do my thing. I've got some numbers in mind. I've machined to where I want to be, and I don't, after machine work, my exhaust port's at 110, and I don't want to raise it a shit ton because I'm going to lose my trap compression. So anyway, in between that nonsense and some cock blocking for some flow, I'm going to do my best work, and if I got to go back in and touch things up to get a little bit of wow factor out of this, then so be it. Lordy, that's a lot of work. Anyway, did a little intake work. Not much. Just, you get this huge opening and then it necks down, so wanted more of a straight shot. Raised and widened the, let me prop that up a little bit, the exhaust. That should be all nice and pretty. A little bit of work to the lowers, not that much. And then these uppers, spent a ton of time in there getting everything shaped and some direction in there so we can get up and run. So that was pretty good. Lowers are just, there's nothing fancy about them. Just cleaned up what was there, tried to straighten up some stuff. Bodie, Novice Lumberjack, thank you very much for pro tip on how to defeat the child-proof carburetor. Much thanks, my friend. Much thanks. Looks like I got a muffler left to do and timing advance. So there's a good progress report, but that's about twice the time it takes me to do the port work on this as opposed to a traditional jug. And kudos to, and I got to clean up this RTV that's here. I don't know what Echo's using, but in order to pry these off, you can see I scratched this up just a little bit trying to pry. But this stuff, when it bonds, it is on there. I thought for sure I was going to break this. But it does seat in there a lot better than everybody else's stuff because it's got that trench right there. But this stuff, man, that is some hellified RTV. Silicone, whatever. Alrighty, let's get back to it. I'm ready to put this thing back together and go run it. I sure am glad this saw is easy to take apart and put back together. Everything else on this sumbitch is absolutely child-proof. There was a big baffle that was on the bottom of that had to be ground off. And, you know, this muffler is not meant to come apart in two pieces. So, there it is. Got a nice big opening. Everything's all cleaned up as best as I can get. I sure am ready to pull the cord on this. I've got one last thing left to do, timing advance. Again, we said the limiter screws have been defeated and port work's done. Muffler's done. I think that covers it. I'm all in today with this project. All right, let's get the full effect of this. She's a little throatier now. I think I can lean this out a little bit. We can test cuts tomorrow. I just do a quickie test. Let's take this thing back in and talk about some pros and cons. All right, let's talk about the good, bad, and ugly. Before I get into that, that last little piece right there where I was restarting it, if you'll notice, and Echoes are famous for this, don't know why, but that second pull that I did, or the second time I restarted it, I probably only had the cord out maybe a foot and a half at the most, and it fired off. Their coils are lifetime warranty. So this has the same top cover hold down setup as the 362s, 400s. But the only thing I like about them is these will actually fall out. You know, it's the exact same, see, they're not as captive as you would think. But there is air injection on this saw, and it does have the centrifugal or vortex, whatever, I don't know what it's patented as, but the air comes in through right here. And even after cutting for a while, this air cleaner is really high flow and nothing gets to it. So they've really nailed it. I haven't seen air filtration like this since a 2 Series Husky. Chain tensioner is a little bit on the, it rotates really nice and smooth, but the nub that goes into your bar where it tensions and moves the bar back and forth is a little, that shaft is just a little bit on the small side. The spring ABs look great. They put some real thought into this when they made it. Everything, you're not going to rattle one of these loose. Everything's got high quality Loctite. My little 12 volt Makita wouldn't take hardly anything off of this without cracking it loose first with a T-handle. Easy to take apart, easy to put back together. Every freaking thing on this is child-proof. The muffler, the carb, the transfer caps, I'm not a big fan. I think some of the guys have talked about just putting a flat plate on there to allow just a little bit more flow. We'll see how this does. I tried to do a little bit of work in there, but you really can't relieve the transfer caps on here. It's very thin. I have talked to a few guys and they actually JB weld those up and then grind them away so they can actually get a little bit more flow up and around. We did not do that on this one. You're still, I looked up MSRP on this saw and you're still at $1,000 bill. According to Echo, this is MSRP $999 to $1,029, and maybe that's from varies by region or something, or it's rated up to a 32-inch bar. I think that's a big ask for this saw. Well, we'll see how it runs tomorrow with it ported and all this extra effort. Dry weight, which you can't run a dry weight saw, is 14.8 pounds. Even with this 32-inch bar on it, it's really not too terribly bad. I think they did a nice job keeping the weight down on it. Starter covers, magnesium. Clutch covers, magnesium. So they got rid of some of the plastic on this for sure. That's my only gripes about it, really, is that from a Porter builder standpoint, it takes about twice as long to do one of these. Now, granted, this is the first one, and maybe it goes long, but there's a lot of steps that you really need to take into account for when you're porting one of these. I ended up with my squish at 22 thousandths, my intake's at 81. There's a huge, I think there's like 7 or 8 degrees from the primaries to the secondary degree difference. I narrowed that down to 2 degrees of difference and tried to get a little bit more flow up towards the spark plug, so we help with some scavenging. I'm at 121 and 123 respectively on both sides, and set my exhaust at 101 degrees. So pretty happy with how this came out. Real proof of the puddings and sticking it a big old piece of wood. And I used the same piece of wood I did on the baseline cuts. If you didn't see that, that was one of the last videos where I ran the 680 and this one. We get the 680 done later this week. I got some repair stuff to do. Thanks very much for sticking with me. Hope you all have a great day.